It seems like every single year that passes, the hip-hop genre continues to decline, especially for the mainstream. There was a lot of alarming stats that were released in the past couple of months, and there's one of them that is absolutely ridiculous. We're going to be talking about it at the end of this video. But to start off this episode, listen to this, guys. So, on the global Spotify chart, only 6 songs of the 200 spots are occupied by rap songs. Compare this to exactly this day 5 years ago. There were 56 songs out of the 200 in 2020. This is the worst performance the genre has seen since the chart was introduced 9 years ago. And a lot of the charting songs that are on this list are not even from 2025. You see songs like Without Me from Eminem, or even a Timeless from Playboi Carti and The Weeknd.
Or All the Stars from like 2018, which is like only half a rap song.
And it's just alarming, bro, because you go through this mix, right? And you start to see different mainstream rap acts, for example. Let's take Lil Baby, Young Thug, Travis this year. And the music they're releasing is not only, let's say, poor in quality, but it's not even sticking in the mainstream anymore. And I feel like we've gotten to a point to where, yes, you could have a super hot name. Yes, you could have a global brand. Yes, you could have a dedicated fan base. But if the music is not good, it's just not going to stick. And yes, I understand there has been amazing hip-hop albums from other sides of the genre. Right? We've gotten great underground albums this year. Shout out to McKinley Dixon. Shout out to J-Mac. Shout out to Marco Plus. D2X released great music this year. You had Jid with a great album that dropped this year. Clips did a great run this year too. You could consider that mainstream hip-hop.
Yeah, and you could argue like at the furthest extent of mainstream, maybe the underground of the mainstream would have, let's say, Jid and Freddie Gibbs. And then with Clips, I mean, that album sold over 100,000 copies first week. You have to kind of consider that mainstream hip-hop. So there are artists thriving. When you look at the majority of the bunch, these albums are not only flopping commercially for the most part, besides maybe a music by Playboi Carti, but no one's really enjoying the music anymore.
No, of course not. Like looking at Wham or Jack Boys 2 or even this UI Scooty
or
situation.
Lil Wayne's The Carter 6.
Yeah, like these are supposed to be monumental blockbuster albums, right? Like think about the film industry, right? Like as much as people love their indie films and going into like, let's say, smaller niches and pockets of cinematography, you want your blockbusters, bro. You want your massive movies because they create these cultural moments that build up the genre, right? It intrigues new people to come in. It intrigues new artists to attack different sounds, right? Like think about the way Kanye was innovating the sound back then, or the way that Jay-Z did it, or the way that Drake was doing it. Kendrick, Cole, Eminem, like when it was really prime time for these rappers, there was a responsibility for these guys to carry the genre on their shoulders. And I feel like that is no longer relevant whatsoever. So what do you think is happening right now, Lou? Especially with these statistics, it's getting alarming. The mainstream is absolutely flopping. And it seems like we're in a really dry stretch right here where it's like, besides music, mainstream-wise, what's really hitting right now commercially?
I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of issues to tap into. One of them being just the comfort level of a lot of these artists, right? Like, think about the caliber of artists that we're talking about and how much success they've already had in the genre, right? The Lil Waynes, the Lil Babies, the Young Thugs, even Drake, who arguably put out his worst album this year, even though it was more of an R&B album. A lot of these artists don't really have too much to prove. They've already filled up their bank accounts. They already have most of them classics in their catalogs. Is there really a need to push the envelope and to put out the best music of their career? Or is it just easier to cruise and put out an album because there's certain headlines around their name and that maybe they're due for an album because it's been a couple of years, but that creative inspiration maybe has started to fade away? I think another big issue, bro, like listening to UI Scooty, I thought to myself, I'm like, how the fuck would his team and the engineers and people that were part of the building of this album, minus Thug, how are they approving this music, bro? I think a lot of these artists also suffer from being surrounded by too many yes men who just say, okay, bro, you like it, I like it. We're all making money together. I get to have a Young Thug placement.
Yes, but then are you really pushing the envelope on your product, right? Because we've talked to a lot of different record label execs about this, and bro, there's people in the industry that genuinely feel this way, where it's like everything's fucking stagnant right now. The entire development system for new artists and new acts is getting crazy. I also think there's a lack of refreshing faces right now in the mainstream of hip hop that are pushing the envelope, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at, let's say, I'm not sure, Look at a Netspend or a Yeet, for example. Yes, they've created their own lanes and their own like little subgenres within hip hop, but is it really pushing the genre forward mainstream wise? No, because looking at the statistics, they're having trouble breaking through themselves. Like they're not having the chart power, the chart stay that the previous batch of superstars were having. So it creates this stagnant feeling in the genre, and no one knows where to go anymore.
I think that's a big problem is when you look at like the popular underground scene of today, it's a lot of artists that are in really like these two main subgenres, which are rage rap, and then you have what people are calling like jerk music, which is again, like you said, the Shays, the Two Hollises, the Netspends, the Xavier So Bass, the Osama Sons. Like all of these artists are part of like those realms, those subgenres, and a lot of them sound like clones of each other. If I'm being totally honest, they all seem to have, it sounds like the same producer locked in a basement creating the same style of beats. I mean, sure, I'd like to hear the fresh production styles of someone like a Benny X or a Filthy. Like, for example, Oh I Did off of that new Yeet project. Bro, I was blown away, bro. Like, that anthemic rage beat, the way that synth sounded like a fucking trumpet that was just blowing through that production, the distorted bass, the woman screaming, that was fresh as fuck for a rage beat. But my problem is just that a lot of these rappers are being carried by those beats, bro. And at the end of the day, the truth is, most of these artists don't know how to rap, bro. That's the biggest problem. You're making rap music and you don't know how to rap properly. A lot of these artists aren't even like, forget like lyricism. A lot of them aren't even showing that much charisma. They're not able to properly find diverse pockets. The breath control isn't there. Like a lot of the basics of what makes someone able to ride a beat, that's not like audible in a lot of these artists' catalogs.
Or it's a lot of music that's just sort of like drenched in recency, right? Where it's let's conform to a new hot topic and let's see who's the one that's able to be the most mysterious while doing it. And I think everyone looked at what Cardi did this decade and was just like, okay, let me take that blueprint for myself and let's kind of switch production up a bit. And, you know, I have a completely different voice, so it's automatically different. Like, no, like there needs to be an identity. But regardless, like,
I think that's the tip of the iceberg, because
it is.
I think the labels are also looking for the next Cardi and looking for maybe the next Lil Baby, and like they're sort of like typecasting a certain type of rapper who's had success, but maybe the limited success that we've seen, perfect example, a Lil Baby have, where we're seeing the decline in sales, in demand for live shows, etc. So that's a big problem. Let me ask you too this. Do you think the audience is to blame in the sense of the type of talent that we're getting, maybe the quality of music, in the sense of, what I will say is this: a lot of the newer generation of listeners, they do prefer the vibe of the music more than like the actual, let's say, content of the music. But even
if you're making good vibe music, bro, like for example, when I was listening to Barter 6 or early Future, yeah, they weren't the craziest, you know, songwriters, but for the most part, a lot of it was sort of built around the vibe. I don't think, like, okay, the audience never knows what it really wants. It only knows what it wants once it's given to them. And it's like, yo, this is fresh. This is fucking crazy. This is incredible. Because that's just what artistic, you know, expression is, right? Like, I don't create my podcast or like around my opinions around what everyone else thinks just for the sake of pleasing people. And I feel like that's what a lot of artists are doing. It's like this pleasing contest, you know, where it's, well, I'm going to sacrifice my own artistic output just to be able to fit into a certain mold. And that becomes a problem. Also, another problem that we were talking about with one of our close friends that's really deep in the music industry is that a lot of the management and a lot of the structure around these artists, it's extremely loose now. It's like a fucking daycare, right? Where the artist development and putting money into these artists, and, you know, like back then you used to have to follow a certain formula to be able to release a studio album. If Kanye wanted to release a Graduation, it had to be in collaboration with his label. His A&R had to tell him when he was going to drop it, and it had to be of a certain quality. But now the artists don't want to hear that. They want to be able to drop at whatever time they want. This is it. Let's get it out. I agree. I think there should be that sort of like loose nature to it, but to a certain extent, you still need the foundation of the label and of the teams to be able to form these sounds. It goes back to what you were saying about the Yes Men. If everyone just lets people, like, let's say, release this music and it goes out to the public and it's all half-assed and no one's telling the artist, like, hey, like, let's take some more time on this. Let's get this producer in. Let's do, like, where's the art of the collaboration? Like, bro, you're just whipping shit out there to keep your fans happy and to keep your streams up. at that point, what are you really doing? And then
Yeah.
the whole other conversation becomes, well, you have all these artists that are conforming to the Spotify algorithms, right? It's like, well, how do you want me to compete in this new age of DSPs?
And speaking of that, it's crazy because they're all pandering to these algorithms and wanting to chart high. But when you look at the Billboard Hot 100 of this current week, there's no rap songs in the top 20. And there's only about 19 songs in the entire Hot 100 that are rap songs, and 15 of them are from Cardi B's new album. Even crazier when you look at just number ones for this year, bro. In 2025, the real answer should be 0 hip-hop songs that have gone number 1, but technically it's 1 with Travis Scott's 4x4, which obviously only landed there because of the immense bundles he had attached to it, selling CDs, selling shirts with the release of the single.
Had a crazy drop-off, too, in the second
Yeah,
week.
it literally dropped off to 57 the following week. That's not a number 1 hit to me, bro. That is not a number 1 hit. It's a manufactured hit. It's a bought hit. But you look at 2024, last year, 5 rap songs reached number 1. 2023, only 3 rap songs, and that was a slow year as well for the mainstream, and you didn't have a number 1 until Doja in August. 2022, 5 rap songs went number 1. 2021, 7. 2020 had 10 rap songs go number 1. You look at 2018, 8 rap songs went number 1. We're even seeing just a lack of hits all around the fucking board, bro.
So that's what I'm trying to ask you.
What's happening, bro? Like, why aren't people able to cut through the noise? And I think a lot of them are obviously, a lot of these superstars not on their A game for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier. I think a lot of them are pandering, forcing the music, not really being inspired by their real life experiences or just what's driving them on a creative level. And no one's really doing anything entirely unique anymore. I think those are the major issues. And I see a lot of people saying, like, stop harping over the mainstream. Fuck the mainstream. If you're a real hip-hop fan or you're a real music fan, you don't need to rely on the mainstream to be happy. But I do take issue with that, just in the sense of, like, yes, I love a lot of underground releases. I think the underground has been above the mainstream for a couple of years at this point in this genre.
And it usually is, actually.
Yeah, it usually is. That being said, bro, the mainstream is what labels, festivals, brands, that's where their money is going into, bro. If mainstream hip-hop is thriving artistically, that's where the funding comes from, bro. The infrastructure, the attention, it all trickles down then into the underground. You got to think about it this way too. Think about like a new hip hop listener, bro. They're going to be exposed to what's popular, and only then are they going to be able to sort of trickle down into the underground and find these new artists. So what I'm trying to say is that you need the mainstream to thrive if you care about hip-hop and you want to see these underground artists be able to actually make a living, bro, doing this.
Absolutely.
Because if not, it's just going to fucking drown, bro. It's going to be a sinking ship.
It already is a sinking ship, and I think, like, I was having this conversation with one of our friends, too, over, like, how rock kind of went through the same thing in the 90s and the 2000s, where it was the biggest fucking genre alive, bro, especially in the 80s and the 70s. And then the product started getting more and more diluted. You saw rock go through so many different transformations, and then it essentially became sort of a legacy genre to where then hip-hop starts to take over. And I'm starting to see that with hip-hop not going into country. You're starting to see that shift happen right now, because I don't consider pop a genre. Pop is not a genre. It was just a way to classify like popular artists. Like, really, if you want to stick it to the music and the genres, then now it's really a country takeover at this point. And like you were talking about with the live performances and the festivals, it's starting to affect that area as well. So there are currently only 6 rap acts on the Coachella 2026 lineup. You have Young Thug, Clips, Sexy Red, Central C, Little Sims, and Sway Lee. This is the lowest number of rap acts the festival has seen in the past 8 lineups. Just for context, back in 2022, the festival saw the most rap acts with a total of 19, including 21 Savage, Baby Keem, Lil Baby, and others. And that same year, Ye was supposed to perform until The Weeknd replaced him. So this is another indication, and when I was speaking to a couple of different promoters in the city and massive promoters and bookers here, another problem too from the back end, this is real, is that especially with rappers and artists in the rap genre, they'll ask for excessive amounts of money with no motion. Where it's like, well, I gotta show up, I have a fan base. It doesn't work like that, bro. Like the festivals are gonna stop booking because they legitimately do not have the budget and you don't have the pull. So now you're creating this market for these live. Okay, so let's say someone like me, let's backtrack. Let's say I want to start going to rap shows and I like rap festivals. That might not be a possibility for me anymore as a fan, because now the rappers are asking for too much money, when it's completely undeserved. And now the booking agencies and people that are actually booking the talent, they cannot justify that ROI. It's like, why am I going to book you as a rapper when you can't even fill out a 1,000 person venue and you're asking me for fucking 300 bands? Like, how? Like, where am I going to justify this? Yeah. I'm going to have different artists in the country lane. I'm going to have different EDM artists. By the way, that genre is fucking exploding too right now, where they're asking for a fraction of your cost.
Yeah, listen,
and they're going to draw they're going to draw good crowds.
I'm not more worried about like the excessive like ticket prices. Like, that's just what it is, bro. If I'm going to see a standout performer that's going to blow my mind visually, sonically, all of that, I'll fucking pay the premium, bro. My bigger issue, bro, is that within the last 2 years, there are so few rappers that have had the motion or that have had created these immersive worlds and put out albums that last more than a couple of weeks for me to merit going and see them. The bigger issue, though, of all of this is that the majority of rappers, this is why I never want to go to another rap festival unless it's like Camp Flog or Dreamville where it's properly curated. The Rolling Louds, the Lollapaloozas, the majority of those rosters, bro, you have artists going on stage, playing their music on Spotify through the speakers, running around stage, saying a couple of words, and that's it, bro.
And then we're
and that's what and that's what you're paying for, bro. The reality is, it's shitty karaoke, bro. Hip hop in 2025, from a general point of view, is not the right genre to go and witness live. It's just not, bro. Obviously, there's your exceptions. There's amazing live performers, from Denzel Curry to Clips to so many others. But the majority is the types of artists you're seeing at Rolling Loud, at Coachella, at fucking Lollapalooza. They're not putting on a show that's worth even seeing for $10, bro.
The sound design is incredibly poor, bro. Like, there has to be a certain standard upheld, and you find that standard upheld in different genres, but why isn't it being upheld within the rap genre? Which is crazy to me, right? Especially from the mainstream artists. These guys are getting paid lots of money. By the way, the point that I was trying to make was not for the ticket prices. It's just that now the booking companies cannot justify the return on investment for getting these rappers there. Mm-hmm. That's why Coachella can't have fucking 19 rappers again. They literally can't afford it. You're going to bring in all of these dead acts that have no more motion anymore, or all of this fucking inflated streaming numbers, and you're going to come have them perform at your festival? For what? Why? Because they have IG followers and they have a core community. So what I'm trying to get at too is, like, if the whole approach now for the new generation and all these new kids is conforming to the styles, conforming to the algorithm, doing what you have to do, it's low-key not even working.
It's not.
It's not even working, bro. These albums are not sticking. The labels are frustrated because they're pumping budget into these projects and fuck, no one's listening to them. You might think they're listening to them based on Reddit posts and Twitter posts, but this shit's real life, bro. There's budget that goes on behind this. There's real life shit besides the internet. Besides, like, these threads that go viral. Like,
for sure.
Like, listen, this is a whole different conversation in itself. When the companies cannot justify the ROI anymore, it gets fucking crazy. But this is the stat that we wanted to talk about at the beginning of this episode. This one is absolutely ridiculous. This just talks to the album experience and how people truly now don't give a fuck anymore about albums. Out of the top 20 most streamed rap albums of 2025, only one of them is an album that came out in 2025, and it's Cardi's Music. Also, out of the 20, more than half of the list is made up of albums that dropped in the 2010s and 2000s. Graduation by Kanye West is receiving more daily streams on Spotify than any album from Drake, Travis, or Kendrick.
And the majority of rappers in the game. Like, we wanted to mention them because they're obviously some of the biggest, but it just goes to show that, people are more focused on albums from the 2000s, 2010s than the mediocrity that we've been able to suffer through for these last couple of years. And I feel like, you have to kind of be the change that you want to see. And we spoke a lot about, like, the underground scene and how it's not popping off, but I did want to take a bit of time to shine some light on the underground, because I feel like it goes back to what I was saying earlier about, like, needing the mainstream to thrive for the underground to thrive. Like, bro, the average 15-year-old is not fucking digging for new artists to discover, bro. They're not doing it. The average 15-year-old who's more of a casual fan is gonna wait for a popular album to come out, maybe discover someone off of a feature, see a song that's popping off through their
Spotify
TikTok
radio
algorithm. So, like, it's not the best way to discover music, but that's just the reality. I did have a list of rappers I wanted to put you guys onto, because the underground is not all that bad. It's just the idea that you have to know where to look, and there is a lot of talent, and we should be championing the right artists. So Just wanted to give love to Red Veil, to Jev, to Soul Child, Chez Noir, D2X, My Name Isn't J-Mac, Marco Plus, Chris Patrick, Ice Cold Bishop, Life of Thom, Coast Contra, Oblate Reed. These are just some of the amazing artists that are killing it in the underground. And I feel like we as a hip-hop community, like, we can whine all we want about the type of music that we're not fucking with. Let's start talking about the music that is good. Let's start sharing the underground music and the finds that we have, to really just, again, start the change that you want to see, bro.
Yeah, but I think it's beyond that at this point. I think it's in a weird place for hip hop. It genuinely is. I don't even know what to say, bro. Like, at this point in time, going into the fourth quarter of 2025, it's scary.
It's rough. It's
rough.
rough.
This year has been scary, bro. If all we got this year was the run in July,
it's fucked, bro. It's literally like almost every mainstream rapper that put out an album this year, you could argue, put out the worst album of their career, bro. Like, it's like fall off after fall off. That's really what it's feeling like right now.
Because there's no energy anymore. No one gives a fuck.
That's why I'm very curious to see where J. Cole's the fall off concept is gonna go, because the way that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's sort of like in line with Kendrick Lamar's Watch the Party Die and like sort of the messaging of that song, where he was, early to talk about just the decline of hip hop and how the party's kind of dying, bro. There's not much left to rescue.
Dead, bro.
It's been dead. That's it.
I think last year is probably going to be the last year you guys see like a serious like hip hop year. And even at that, besides the battle, there wasn't much going on last year, bro.
Yeah.
There was a good stretch of time where people
didn't want to drop.
Yeah, there was a good time where like people didn't even want to drop their albums. So let us know in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen, how do you feel about the genre right now, 2025 as a whole? Are you guys alarmed? Do you guys feel like, fuck, like, where is this going? Or are you guys going to stay patient with it and then maybe move on to another genre? Who knows at this point? But guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.